What's up, everybody? It's your boy Norn Radd89 here with another Radd movie review, and today marks the completion of reviewing all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. Yes, this is the final one, the ninth film we are talking about from 2022. This is the one that was released on Netflix, and man, this has been quite the journey, talking about one of my favorite slasher franchises, so I'm very excited to discuss this film. Let's get into the positives, the negatives, and the Radd rating. Roll it! So Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2022 is another film that acts as a legacy sequel. This film ignores all the previous ones except for the very first 1973 film, and this follows that storyline and serves as a direct sequel to that film, but it's decades later, like 50, I think it's like 40 or 50 plus years later that this film takes place. This is a film that was released on Netflix mainly because Lionsgate lost the rights because they didn't pop out a sequel to Texas Chainsaw 3D or the 2017 film. They didn't pop out sequels to that film fast enough. So they lost the rights to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was scooped up by another company, I think it was Legendary, and then they released it on Netflix. Fun fact, too, this was actually a film that the story's by Fede Álvarez, and he was a producer on this film. So let's discuss the positive. So my main key positive with Texas Chainsaw Massacre is that this film is a blast. This is fun. Like when I watch this film, this is one of those films that's kind of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Like it's just a fun rewatch. Out of all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, the most three recent ones we just talked about, this is the one I've seen the most. I do have a very huge soft spot for Texas Chainsaw 3D, but I've actually watched the 2022 one more than that one, and that's because, man, that film, like I said, when it dropped on Netflix, it came out, I watched it, and it sucks that we didn't get to go to theaters to see this film. It wasn't a theater experience or anything like that, but being able to check this film out at home on Netflix, and like I said, it's just a blast to go through this film. And this is one of those Texas Chainsaw Massacre films that, in my opinion, has one of the coolest kill sequences or some of the best kills in the franchise, period. So that's another reason why I have this film like at a higher rating than some of the others, is because this film just goes for it in terms of the gore. Like, I think this is probably, besides Texas Chainsaw Massacre the beginning, the most gory Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. I also do like Sarah Yarkin as our lead character. I think she does a great job. And then her sister in here is our other kind of main protagonist character. Then we have two other characters. She has her boyfriend tagging along, and then one of her best friends too as well tags along. And this is just one of those storylines that I think a lot of people didn't grab onto. It's just a very simple storyline, though. It's about four young teens that are going out to, or young adults that are going out to a town called Harlow in Texas, and they bought a lot of the properties in the town, and they're going to auction them off and kind of basically gentrify this town. And I think that's why a lot of people didn't really grab onto this storyline or like it. But for me, I just feel like it's kind of a sign of the times. Like, this is one of those films that you're going to be able to watch like 20 years from now, and you're going to be able to pick out exactly the time period it came out in, because that's the way they want it to be. Especially even that scene when you see Leatherface get on the bus, and that one dude pulls out the phone and he's pointing at Leatherface and he's like, "Don't try anything or else you're going to get canceled, bro." I know a lot of people hate that line, but it's a sign of the times. It literally marks the film, so I don't have a problem with it. Plus, Leatherface gets to massacre everybody on that bus and has one of the best, like I said, kill sequences that I've ever seen in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. This is another Texas Chainsaw Massacre film too that looks beautiful. The cinematography, the way it's shot, and I love the amber colors. More of this film, when I think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think of the color palette that this film has. There's a lot of yellows, oranges, and amber colors that kind of make up the texture and the color palette of the film. Also some blues. There's a really good sequence of just a great use of blues when they get to like the raining sequence in the film. So yeah, this movie is beautiful, just like a lot of the other Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. In this franchise, there's really only one film, I would say, or maybe two, that don't look this good in terms of the way they were shot, the way the color palette is, or the composition of the shots. Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise is really high up there and has some of the best camera work you're ever going to see in horror franchises. Also love our Leatherface performance. This is one that's a very brutal Leatherface performance, but it feels very similar to Gunnar Hansen's Leatherface. Like, the portrayal of this one, I think is just really good. Forgive me right now, I forgot the actor's name who plays him in this movie, but he does feel like he homaged a lot of the stuff that Gunnar brought in that first film, and even his portrayal. It's a very somber, kind of sad portrayal. There's a certain sequence when he's reminiscing about his like the older woman who took care of him after he left the house, because storyline wise, after the massacre of the 1973 film, Sally Harvestine was found. She told her story, but Leatherface kind of went missing and no one found him, and they thought it was just kind of like rumors and stuff. He ended up being taken care of by this lady at an orphanage, and when that lady passes away, there's like a really good scene where Leatherface is kind of reminiscing about her and going through her clothes in the room, and then he starts putting makeup on his face after he's like crying, getting really emotional. So a lot of cool moments where they add levity and layers to this film. And I think that's what's cool, is that a lot of people, they kind of look past that because they just hate the characters. They don't like the story. Or I've heard people say they're mad because this film was filmed in a different country. I'm like, who gives a rat's ass? Like, I know these are Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, but you got to face the fact that sometimes we are going to film outside of countries, and they've done it another time. This is the second time they've done it in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. But yeah, that was always another thing that kind of people harped about, saying that that's why they didn't like this film. But yeah, for me, I don't mind the characters because it's a sign of the times. I love the brutality of this film. Great kills. It looks amazing. But there are some mixed and negatives we got to talk about, so let's get on to those right now. Starting with the mixed and negatives, the biggest one that hurts this film, that knocks it down and keeps it from being one of the upper echelon Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, is the addition of Sally Harvestine's character. And that's very much a callback to Halloween 2018 when they brought back, Jamie Lee Curtis to play Laurie Strode in that film. This film kind of copied that. I'm not going to lie. They very much copied that formula, and they brought back Sally. It's a different actress in this film, but they brought her back because of the actress from the original film. She's no longer with us. Rest in peace. But yeah, the addition of that character in this film heavily hurts the film because it doesn't do anything to elevate the film. I don't like any of the scenes with Sally in it, and she gets dispatched in such a way that it's just a waste of a character. It's a cool kill, don't get me wrong. She gets lifted up by a chainsaw with Leatherface, and he's just revving up that chainsaw. But even because of that, you have to suspend disbelief because he throws her off to the side, and then she's still able to get off a shotgun shot and help the girls kind of escape Leatherface at a certain point. And come on, you're a 60, 70-year-old plus woman, and you just took a whole entire chainsaw to your chest like that. I don't think you're going to really get off a shotgun shot. You just have to suspend disbelief with some of the moments in this film, and Sally's a huge part of the reason why the rating gets dragged down a little bit, and is the biggest negative of this film. My other negatives with this film is going to be it's too short. It's only an hour and 23 minutes, and I know most of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films are only an hour and a half. Like, that's the formula, but an hour and 22 is just too short. There's another film, I think it was Next Generation, that is very similar to this. They're really short. Even Leatherface, the one we just talked about from 2017, all clock in at under an hour and a half. And for me, it's just when you do that consistently, you kind of do feel it. And with this film, this is the main one where I feel it, where I'm like, we could have had more moments. We could have had a sequence. I would have appreciated a sequence where we saw Leatherface actually go to the orphanage, a young, Tommy Sawyer, and then he gets put into that kind of orphanage family. Just a little bit of intro setup stuff. That would have been a cool thing. They have Sarah Yarkin's sister's character. She was in a school shooting, and they don't really do anything with that character. There's a moment where they try to build on that when she's talking to the character of Richter, and she's discussing about how she survived the school shooting and how she's feels like she's supposed to do something important with her life now, and all her friends are dead and stuff. So they try to, but they don't really elevate it that much. And I think they could have did a little bit better with that character. I do like her character, but they could have did a little bit better with that instead of adding in the Sally character and just wasting our time with that. And sometimes when I watch it, the ending does feel a little anticlimactic. This is going to get a little bit into spoiler territories. I know this is from 2022, so this is a more recent one. I don't want anybody to be spoiled, so if you haven't seen this film, please fast forward 15 seconds in this video. But Melody's character, Sarah Yarkin, Melody, I kind of hate the anticlimactic ending where she gets pulled out of the car and killed. It's a cool sequence, but I like her character. I like her character a lot, and she wins me over by the time we get to the third act. And to see her character get dispatched, I'm like, oh, it just makes me so, it hurts. But sometimes you need that in horror movies. You know, as I described with some of the other slashers that I really love, even the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, that's a prime example. When you care about the characters or the protagonists, or you learn to love them, or they win you over in the film, when they get dispatched or they get killed, it makes the kill sequence more potent because you don't want that character to die. Thank you for sticking around with me all for this rad movie review of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. Please shout out down below in the comment section. What are your feelings on this film? I know there's a lot of people out there that dislike this movie. Don't be afraid to tell me your negatives. I want to know what you feel about this movie. In this review, this is just my thoughts, my opinions. This is not going to change yours at all unless you do rewatch the film and you find yourself liking it more. I would be happy with that because, as I said, in terms of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, this is one of my favorites to rewatch. And in terms of a rad rating, this film is going to get a 7.5 out of 10. A solid rating. Really, the only one reason this doesn't get like an 8.5 out of 10 is because of the Sally character. Like, she really does drag this film down, the addition of that character. And I think if it wasn't for her and they did some of that other stuff I described I wanted to see, this would have been probably like an 8 or an 8.5 out of 10 film for me. But please like the video. It definitely helps out the channel. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and have that notification bell on so you're notified anytime I post a video. But most importantly, y'all know what's up. Have a safe and happy day. Peace out.